We open to a recap of last season's finale, where Benny Sisko took a camping trip through the wormhole with his son, Eggnog and Quark. We met someone being chased by the gem Hadar, Dominion shock troops for when seduction fails. Shenanigans ensued and they all escaped along with the person chased, thanks to the help of the rest of the cast in megashuttles and the USS Not Enterprise, which got proper deaded in the resulting punch-up. The person we rescued was a Dominion spy though, and after being uncovered, teleported away and left us with the promise of incoming unpleasantness. We rejoin our cast as they make preparations. We've been running battle simulations to see how an encounter with the Gem Hadar will go, though we still found time for Dax to restyle her hair, Odo to change his outfit, and Starfleet to get new comm badges. It's a season premiere after all. Anywho, those simulations have gone very badly indeed. Each one results in the station being boarded in short order, and the prospect of guerrilla fighting in corridors isn't particularly appealing. We need a different approach, so it's lucky we've got one. Some wibblies outside the station set off alarms and scare the shit out of everyone, only for it to reveal itself as a Starfleet ship with Sisko on board. It's called the Defiant, and it's got lots of guns and a cloak, something they whipped up a few years back when the Borg were giving us problems. The prototype never went into production because the Borg weren't as much of a problem as we expected, but Starfleet doesn't like waste, so we kept hold of it. Kira's not convinced that one mothballed ship is going to make a difference in a fight, so it's just as well that's not why it's here. Starfleet wants us to go through the wormhole and find the Founders, so we can explain that we're not a threat. Sisko asked for this ship specifically, perhaps because his faith in Starfleet Command's commitment to diplomacy isn't what it once was after the Marquis business. Something with a cloak and a shitload of guns might not convince them we're peaceful, but it'll make them reconsider how much of a pushover we'll be. As well as the ship, Sisko's also brought back some people. The first is a familiar face, sort of. This Romulan sub-commander will go on to be Seska in Voyager, which raises some very interesting potential headcanon given that character's history. Romulan Seska is here to keep an eye on the cloaking device we're using. A previous treaty with them precludes us from making our own, so we're borrowing one of theirs. The Romulans either realizing they'll be a target for the Dominion too, or possibly already having some ships on the list of vessels destroyed by the Gem Hadar. Protection of the cloak is why the other guy is here too. Eddington is from Starfleet Security and has posted guards to the Defiant's docking port, something Odo was not informed about. That's why he sticks around when Sisko dismisses everyone. He's figured out where this is going, him being replaced by someone from Starfleet. Sisko tries to soften the blow by saying Odo will still be in charge of everything that isn't Starfleet related, and that he fought the decision to post Eddington here, but it doesn't change what's happening. Odo thinks Starfleet have never really trusted him, which is probably a fair assessment based on how that admiral referred to him last season. That's why he's going to solve the problem himself, by resigning. Sisko returns to his quarters to find Jake eating instead of unpacking. The trip to see Starfleet about the Dominion threat also gave them a chance to grab some of their stuff from Earth, an act that firmly establishes DS9 as home. Quite the change from neither of them wanting to be here initially, though probably just as well when there's another 4 seasons after this one. While they get back to unpacking, Kira's talking to Odo. She says she's spoken to the Bajoran Provisional Government and they want Odo on the mission to find the Founders. He's smart enough to see the idea was hers and that it's to try and cheer him up, but the fact that she'd want to is effective in itself, and she leaves him to consider it. In a curious turn of events, Sisko wants Quark on the mission too. There's an element of logic to that, as the Ferengi, and Quark specifically, were the first ones to hear about the Dominion from a member race, so he has contacts. Okay, at least one of those contacts wanted to kill him, but that's not the point. Besides, Sisko's brought out the big guns by saying he ran the idea past the Grand Nagus, and he agrees entirely. That scuppers any chance of Quark trying to squirm his way out of it, so he'll be going with us. A visit from Dax later on tells him the Defiant will be ready, but she's here mostly to see how he's doing. He's under no illusions this will be a difficult job, though it has better odds than the station and then Bajor resisting an attack. Given a choice between bad and worse, you take what you can get. And what we've taken is a ship that's a bit on the cramped side. This is no science vessel, so they didn't waste space on the usual Starfleet luxuries like a spacious bridge or a proper sick bay. The Defiant was designed with precisely one job in mind, to kick an enemy in the dick and then leg it. We're about to leave when O'Brien notes somebody at the door. It would appear Odo has accepted Kira's offer to join them. With him aboard, we depart for the wormhole and, once through, turn on sneaky bastard mode. Here's hoping it all turns out better than the last time Sisko was in charge of something larger than a mega shuttle. We've got a ship with both Quark and Odo on board, so naturally we're putting them in the same room. And to be fair, Bashir makes a good point when he says everybody else will be happier with somebody watching Quark. It's not like he's never traded cloaking devices before, and the last thing we need is a diplomatic oopsie because the resident dodgy git was light-fingered. After making it clear he's in no mood for their usual games, Odo reverts to goop form for a nap in his bucket. Up on the bridge, we're getting an unexpected test of sneaky bastard mode. A couple of Jem'Hadar ships are flying our way, and Sisko wants to see if we're as cloaked as we think we are. The answer is not quite. The ships turn around after passing us and start searching. Romulan Seska says it might be a subspace wibbly caused by sneaky bastard mode at high speeds, so we hit the brakes. Unfortunately, so do they, and they start scanning too. O'Brien thinks shutting down power might be smart given how much juice the Defiant uses, and the Jem'Hadar soon get bored and bugger off. Either we passed the test, or they want us to think we did. And to the planet of the Karema, the species Quark was told about during his previous visit to the Gamma Quadrant to buy Tulaberry wine. The guy seems more interested in our ship than Quark's attempts to find out about the Founders, though that may be because he simply doesn't know anything. All of his contact with the Dominion has been through a species called the Vorta, and even that is strictly impersonal. Threats of cutting off all trade with the Ferengi and the potential displeasure of the Dominion as a result forces him to tell us he contacts the Vorta through a relay on a planet and show us where. Odo reacts curiously to the map, asking about some space fog on it, and his behaviour, combined with hearing the Omarian Nebula named twice, suggests its importance, so keep it in mind. That's Quark's job done, so he's going to stay behind and catch a lift with the next wine shipment. Wherever the Defiant is going next, he doesn't want to be on it. We arrive at the planet in question to find the relay is automated. It's also largely lacking in security, which sounds proper dodgy, but we need to check it out anyway. Dax and O'Brien get the job and teleport down when we briefly turn off sneaky bastard mode. It doesn't take long to access the computer, which also sounds proper dodgy and leaves O'Brien very skeptical indeed. The anticipated problem comes when O'Brien tells Sisko that he's found where most of the traffic from this relay gets sent. An alarm accompanies doors being closed and a hand landing on Dax's shoulder. Whatever happened has cut them off, and we can't teleport them out as there's now a shield in place. Shooting the shield isn't an option as some Jem'Hadar ships are on the way, and we'd need to turn off sneaky bastard mode to use weapons. Despite Bashir's objections, Sisko agrees with Romulan Seska that withdrawal is the smartest available option. Perhaps withdrawal is the wrong word, though, as he intends to follow the lead. He also assumes Dax will try to contact the Founders through her interrogators, which is pretty bloody optimistic given how that worked out for him in the last episode, but let's ignore that for now. A call to invite Odo to the bridge doesn't quite go as planned when he basically tells Sisko to bollocks. Fair enough, really, when he's not Odo's boss anymore, but Kira goes to check on him anyway. She leaves as 3 more Jem'Hadar ships are detected, so we come to a stop and turn off power again just to make sure. Odo's feeling a bit weird. Kira's attempts to talk to him aren't working, and he tells her he wants a shuttle so he can fly to the Omarian Nebula, the space cloud he saw on a map earlier. He can't explain why, but he needs to go to it, and he's really rather insistent on the point. The universe has other plans as things start kabooming. Up on the bridge, we've got a few problems. Those Jem'Hadar ships have been able to detect us somehow and have buggered up our warp engines, so legging it isn't an option. As unnamed extras start dying, we shoot back and kaboom one of the attacking ships. That makes the others a touch more wary, which gives us a little time to think, but that's not going to last forever. Elsewhere, Odo is picking up Kira off the floor. She wants to get to the bridge despite additional kabooms, and is still intent on doing so when the whole ship loses power. Odo's trying to argue they should get to a shuttle when some Jem'Hadar teleport over for a bit of wrestling. Up on the bridge, Sisko knows everything's bollocksed. The call to abandon ship is cut short by the arrival of more Jem'Hadar, and the resulting fight does not end well. The fight isn't going well for Kira either, and she ends up getting shot. She wakes up on a shuttle next to Odo, and he brings her up to speed with events, or at least as much of them as he knows. When he scarpered, the Defiant was adrift and surrounded, and he doesn't know anything about those on board. Bugger them though, as we're off to the Omarion Nebula. That we've not been stopped by those Jem'Hadar ships feels a touch dodgy, but neither of them comment on it. Instead, they scan the space fog and find a planet. Well, we're here now, so we might as well take a look. It's a bit of a shithole if we're being honest, but at least it has a lake. Except not quite, as portions of the lake separate themselves from the rest and become humanoids that look suspiciously like Odo. The last of these speaks and welcomes him home, but we'll have to wait for his reaction, as we're told the story is to be continued. Deep Space Nine's back with a whole new season, and a new season means a new budget. Cue some fancy new sets for not one but two fresh ships, along with the models themselves. As an aside, I've read that filming inside the Defiant set was a massive pain in the balls due to the cramped nature of it. There's probably a conversation to be had there about how important communication between designers and film crew is, and it's not the first time we've raised that point on the channel either. Regardless, this all marks a slight course change for the show. We've got an actual proper ship now, so we can take the whole cast on adventures without it being a bit weird that they're all crammed in a mega shuttle. That comes with the danger of just turning into TNG, of course, so having the whole thing be experimental and a bit janky, along with the limits imposed on sneaky bastard mode by the Romulans, gives us a logical reason for not using it all the time. To the story itself, then, and we've a few things to touch on. Odo being relieved of all Starfleet-related security tasks has been a while coming, and it's not the first time we've seen Starfleet Command try to nudge him out of the way. They've addressed the unique position he holds, at least, by imposing it only on Starfleet-specific matters. In truth, they could probably have pushed for the lot as part of their administrator role, and likely not received anything but token pushback from the Bajoran government. Odo may be well liked by the main cast, but we shouldn't forget he was also considered a facet of the Cardigan occupation, even as he tried to find the middle ground. How he was treated in the Season 1 episode A Man Alone shows there's ample simmering hostility from some, if not most, of the Bajorans on the station, or just passing through. How much of that is specific to him, or just generic xenophobia, is another matter, though the Bajoran Provisional Government might not care either way. It was only a year back when they were nearly deposed by a bunch of racists. Not being too vocal about xenophobia might be the politically safe choice, even before you consider who the new Kai is. Let's move on and talk about Sisko. When he's chatting to Dax about visiting Starfleet Command to be debriefed, he says, "I used to get a thrill just walking into that building." Is this purely a sign of him coming to terms with his own personality, the acceptance that he's someone who needs to get his own hands dirty rather than order others to do so, or is it more? Is this an extension of the anger he showed in the Marquis two-parter last season? Is he ambivalent towards Starfleet Command because of how disconnected from reality they've become, even while he still believes in Starfleet as an institution and will continue promoting their principles? Take that a step further and ask what it means for the organization as a whole. If those with the will to do what they believe is right are actively avoiding positions of management, what does that say about the people who are accepting those roles? And what does that indicate for the future of Starfleet itself? I said before that Starfleet has previously acted like an old boys club, where who you know matters more than what you do, but is there a reverse viewpoint to that? Is the willingness of Starfleet Command to ignore the infractions of ship captains something they've come to not only tolerate but actively rely on, because they know it's the only way problems get solved? We'll end on a throwaway line, only this time with a twist, as I genuinely think there's a line that should have been thrown away. I'm on record as someone who generally thinks information is a good thing, but there's a sound argument in this episode for less being more. As the Defiant is under attack, we have the following exchange. Bashir: how did they see through the cloaking device? Romulan Seska: they might have analysed the sensor information from the anti-proton scan and found a way to penetrate the cloak. It's a delivery of an explanation for something happening right now, and on the surface, that sounds like a good thing. The problem is, this is going on while the ship is literally fucking exploding. Instead, I offer the following alternative. Bashir: how did they see through the cloaking device? Romulan Seska: you want to discuss that now? There's enough wiggle room from the encounter earlier in the episode that an explanation of this wouldn't really be necessary, even if the situation was calm. A science bollocks dump as things are detonating around them adds nothing of value and detracts from the tension of the scene. In fact, we even seem to acknowledge this in the scene itself, as Sisko basically tells them to shut up, which would itself have been an equally valid end to Bashir's inquiry without the techno-wank explanation. It feels a bit weird to be arguing for less from an episode when this channel generally holds the opposite position, but here we are. Sometimes the best explanation is the one in the head of the viewer, and I'll pick an interesting question over an unsatisfying answer every single time. End of episode.
A travel brochure.
Yes, ma'am. That's what we were told.
And you didn't ask why this travel brochure needed to detail the patrol routes of security personnel.
We thought it was so visitors would feel safe. You know, friendly Bobby on the street type of thing.
It didn't even occur to you to research this Dominion publishing to see if it actually existed. Or maybe to check the system and use the data we already make publicly available to all visitors, the data that's been security checked to make sure it's safe.
On reflection, that does indeed seem like quite an oversight. I would, however, point out that we are literal dogs.
Hold on a minute, didn't you used to have a different voice?
YouTube thing, don't worry about it. Look, can we go or not? I'll take that as a no then. Woof.